My squat was 325 when I was like.
Good Lord.
Well, I
Pounds, he means pounds.
pounds.
I'm always eating the same amount of protein on a daily basis. And then you're obviously putting in your fats as well.
I remember him saying to me, "Oh, you weren't big enough to play as a prop back then." So
And when it comes to the third set, you're
legs
just
start to
the
go.
legs are going, the
Jelly.
lactic acid, and then you have
the wheezing,
fourth, fifth, and
the
sixth.
wheezing starts like. It's
Like it's just iron in your throat. Like
I was so afraid of making a mistake, because of what like might be said to me, or I remember I used to like nearly kind of had such high anxiety in that environment, and just kind of I was afraid to nearly be myself.
Hello everyone, I'm Aisling O'Reilly and you're very welcome along to the inaugural episode of the Athletes Unplugged podcast, brought to you by Little Dragon Supplements. I'm thrilled to be joined by two of Ireland's top athletes and brand ambassadors for Little Dragon, Andrew Porter and Lee Chin. You're very welcome, lads. It's rare that you get a chance to sit down with two top athletes from two totally different sports, so it'll be nice to contrast and hear the experiences of both of your sports. Like obviously for you, Andrew, professional rugby, and then for you, Lee, to play an amateur sport but train professionally. So it'll be nice to see how they both weigh up. Andrew, have you ever played GAA?
I gave my hand in a bit of hurling when I was younger. Yeah, just can't say I was much good at it now, but yeah, like I obviously stuck with the rugby. So played for Kilmacud Crokes when I was up until about under 14. So yeah, I wasn't bad. I was more just like kind of the big guy in the back, anywhere in the backs, and then catch it and drive it back up the field. So I wasn't a scorer now, but yeah, not like Lee. So
Under 14 is a good age to get to those, to be hurling, like,
Yeah.
And even on the last Little Dragon, the challenges that you both did, you looked handy. You're pretty good.
I can't strike off my left though. That's the only problem. I think they had the same clip of me hitting the target and just put it on repeat, because I hit one and probably no more. So
You're outing yourself now.
You got more than one. You got more than one.
And for you, Lee, did you ever play rugby?
Not to any great level, not involved with a club or anything. I would have played a bit with my secondary school. It was more so just to get out of class than anything. But that would have been the height of my rugby career, and I was just school and a bit of tag rugby maybe as well.
And is that to do with maybe the school you're in as well? Was there a rugby
big time, yeah.
available?
Well, it would have been,
or?
the school wouldn't have been massively sport driven either, but there was a rugby coach that used to come in, and they had a rugby team, so I was on that, and like I suppose it was one sport I never got the grips of in terms of just positioning and where to be at a certain time, and like, you know, just something that I didn't understand at the time, which I would now, but then I just probably wasn't into rugby to a level to understand where I was to be on a pitch, or what my role was to on the day, like, you know.
And is that to do with where you grow up as well, Andrew, or maybe influences that you have around you to get into rugby?
I suppose Ireland's quite broken up into kind of, you have your pockets of big rugby areas and I suppose big GAA areas. I kind of grew up in Dublin, and I got introduced to rugby when I was 4 by my dad. So I was playing from a fairly young age. So it was only because I had a few friends playing hurling that I got into that. So yeah, but I suppose location plays a small part in it. But I suppose the kind of influences in your family and kind of your schools and everything play a small part as well. But on the rugby part, sure, after we had that the videos of us doing the challenges, sure, I had coaches coming up to me and be like, "What's that Lee fellow up to? Like, is he free on the weekend? Like,
No way.
Size of him. Like, yeah, should we bet me in the passing challenge in the rugby?"
Sure. Look, that kind of stuff now you wouldn't be fooled by that.
Yeah.
But,
What about the pull-ups? Was that a draw, or was that the way it was edited?
it was, yeah.
It was a draw.
Was a draw.
What did you get again?
2021?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
I think a few of my reps
His was
were
obviously more
questionable.
impressive than
Well, I
mine.
think a few of
because-
my reps are questionable now, but like,
Not at all.
yeah.
Oh,
I
unreal.
was chuffed keeping up with the big man. So.
Yeah. Lee, tell us a little bit about growing up and I suppose your influences and getting into hurling.
Yeah, I think most of my influences were, you know, school was a big one. My primary school, I had some great teachers in school that pushed me down the road of sport in general, and like there was maybe one coach in school that he kind of had more of a soccer background, and then other teachers maybe had more of a GAA background, and like, you know, when you were kind of decent at both, you know, they try and encourage you down the route, but also just to keep you on the track of playing sport in general. You know, obviously then when I was, I think I was like 9 or 10, maybe 10, yeah, when I joined my club, my hurling club, the Five Harriers, and in Wexford Town, and that was kind of the biggest influence in terms of where I fell in love with it, you know. Like, obviously the influence to go hurling was playing on, I suppose, a record league team in my primary school back at home, and then once I got involved with my club and started meeting people that were just hell-bent on hurling, and like that was probably where I just fell in love with it altogether, and I just continued going that way. It took me a while to let go of some of the other stuff that I played, like soccer and football. I still play football a little bit. Well, the last year I haven't, but soccer was a big part of what I done when I was younger. I loved it. I loved the structure of it, that you just play week in, week out. Like every Saturday morning you play as a young kid, and yeah, it was I loved doing that. And you know, but hurling was just something that I always had deep down, that I knew I loved more than anything else.
Yeah, that's a big decision I always find for kids, when you get to, maybe it's 16 or that, you have to decide. Maybe it's younger nowadays that you have to decide what sport you want to go down. But you can take a lot of skills from each sport and bring them in. Was it rugby from a young age for you, Andrew, or was there other sports that you were sort of toying with as well?
No, like, yeah, I played so many different sports. I think both my parents, my mum was huge into hockey, my dad was big into rugby, and then I had all my cousins who were mad into football, hurling, everything. So like, I think I was introduced to so many sports, and I played so many up until for as long as I could, up until I had to actually make a decision. And kind of, you're so young, and you're not even sure what you want to do. You're like, I still don't know what I do with myself, even after I finish rugby. But yeah, you're like, I suppose that kind of skill transfer does help when you're introduced to so many different sports. And kind of I suppose that's so important for young people now, is just being active as well, is a huge part of things. And like, as long if you're playing one sport, I suppose it's incredibly beneficial.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was incredibly lucky to play multiple sports up until I had to make the decision. Chose rugby, and it's.
And what age would you have made the decision?
It would have been about third year. Well, kind of like, it would have been kind of first year, because you can't play schools rugby and club rugby at the same time. So like, you're making that decision first, like, where you're like, up until then you're just playing mini rugbies and stuff with your club and everything, and then you go into school and you're playing schools rugby.
So you were
the whole
kind of
way
forced
up.
to make a decision, as opposed to, wasn't just, I'm going this route.
Small bit,
Okay.
yeah. But like, in fairness, like, I suppose it worked out a small bit.
Yeah,
So
of
like,
course,
it's
Sure did.
yeah. So like, I suppose when I did have to make the decision, it kind of gave me more to focus on. I could just focus on that one thing and keep getting better at that, keep getting better at rugby. But like, it wasn't until after, I suppose, my second year of under-20s that I kind of realised that, like, it's I might be able to make a career out of something here. And in that, like, I was incredibly lucky to have kind of two bites of the cherry in 2 years of under-20s, because like, I'd say, like, I always say this to my dad and everything like that, if I had 1 year of under-20s, I don't think I wouldn't have got as recognised, I suppose, as I did my second year, because even in that year I made so many improvements for, like, my size and everything. I think I put on like 13 kilos within the space of a year, so
Wow.
I think that stood to me in that. But yeah, like, it's, I suppose, a small bit of luck is involved in a lot of things like this. So and yeah, like, it's kind of cliche with small bounce of the ball here and there, like, it's kind of adds in your favour along the way.
And was the journey straightforward? Like, did you always make the team? Did you?
No, not even. Like, it's, I suppose, up, like, throughout my secondary, like, well, starting off with mini rugby, I suppose I was always kind of the biggest kid. I always played like the year above, the age level above me. Then it got to secondary school, and I suppose I went from being the biggest kid nearly to the skinniest kid going in school, kind of starting out. And then, yeah, like, it was, I suppose I was so used to kind of making the team in growing up, and then you get to secondary school where the competition and everything kind of levels out, and people kind of catch up to you, and I suppose you're you get frustrated like at times when you don't make teams. I suppose I went for so many trials and stuff for like Leinster schools and everything, Ireland schools in towards 5th and 6th year, and didn't make the teams. And I suppose I was looking at other schools, other big rugby schools. I was a bit jealous because I was like, oh, is it because of the school I'm in, or is it because of me? And I suppose there was disappointment along the way. And sure, he's even I was chatting recently with our scrum coach John Fogarty. He was one of the selectors for the Leinster schools, under 16s and 17s, and I remember him saying to me, "Oh, you weren't big enough to play as a prop back then." So I remember him saying that to me still now, and I think that's what that drove me to kind of keep pushing and go hard in the gym and go hard in the pitch then as well. And sure, it was only recently that we were talking about this, and sure, it's worked out and kind of come full circle now.
Yeah.
All the little things that
exactly.
motivate you the most. Yeah.
Is that a tough thing though, at like 16 years of age, to be told that you're not big enough, you have to put on more size? You know, you're so young at that time, you're in school, loads going on, to add that onto it as well?
Yeah, I suppose when you're that young, you're kind of looking at things that like you're kind of looking for everyone else to blame except yourself. Like you're kind of looking that you've been hard done by, and then kind of you have that realization that it's just you that needs to put in the work. And I think that's something my father put into me. It's just work hard, and then things will pay off then in the end.
And for you, Lee, what was your journey like? Was it always straightforward? Obviously you were playing football as well.
Yeah, I think I wasn't straightforward by all means. A lot of my underage development at Wexford, I didn't actually make, I didn't play in like the Tony Forsell tournaments or the Arabon tournaments under 15, 16. I remember the Tony Forsell tournament, which Wexford ended up winning that year. I remember I went away on holidays with my family with the weekend it was on. And then I think the year after for the Arabon, I actually wasn't good enough to make the squad. And like, I suppose when you have moments like that, as you're growing up, you know, they can develop you in terms of just striving for more. But I think most of my downfall when I was younger was the fact that I tried to do everything. I always wanted to play different sports, and I was only, like what Andrew said, when he made his decision to go play rugby, he was able to focus on just that alone and so much more, gain so much more experience. And like, I think with me growing up as even a late teenager, I was still trying to get the most out of all of them, but you could possibly never do that, you know. So for me, that's where I think my downfall was in terms of not getting the most out of myself in one particular sport. And then I suppose when I became up to the age of minor, I made my minor team because I physically developed a bit as well. I was always a small enough guy when I was growing up. I think I was a bit of a late bloomer, and when I started getting when I started filling out and stuff, I suppose my athleticism came on a lot more. I kind of probably caught up to some of the guys that were the same age as me, but probably had grown a little bit more, I suppose, over the ages of 15, 16. But when I became like 16, 17 myself and minor, I was a different athlete, I suppose. And I played for Wexford minor level, and 3 years under 21. And I suppose after my under 21 career, I think my last year under 21, it was the year I was doing the dual at inter-county senior level, and I was still playing under 21 as well. So I had a lot of teams I was involved with in that year, between my own club teams, senior football and hurling, and then underage with the clubs at under 21 level. And then I was at Wexford, hurling, football, under 21, and then senior inter-county hurling and football as well. So there was a lot of teams that I was just
trying to balance.
And I found even at that period in my life, I wasn't getting the most out of myself either, because I was just torn between so many different teams and different things. And it was when in 2014, which I was probably late enough deciding what I was doing and just focusing on one. 2014, what age I was even then, I was probably about 20, but I decided then on going just hurling. And from there, I suppose I just found a lot more balance in life and in sport in general. And like Andrew said, I was able to just focus on me and what I needed to improve. I identified a lot of areas and I went after them myself in terms of where I need to be at to be at a high level, a high standard in this intercounty game, you know. So, and for a couple of years then I was just, you know, on my own journey of developing myself, and obviously being involved with Wexford as well was just bringing me on each year. And yeah, that was pretty much the way I had things when I was younger. Yeah.
And what did your family think of it all? Were they always supportive that you wanted to play for Wexford?
Absolutely, yeah. It was like my family preferred, not that there were huge sports people in general, like there wasn't any one of my family or uncles or anyone before me that played or represented Wexford or they weren't really sport orientated. Mum and my immediate family, of course, everyone was unbelievably supportive with anything I wanted to do. Dad was, I suppose he loved soccer. Not that he always pushed me down that road, but I knew he always enjoyed coming to watch me play that. Now he's a huge fan of hurling at the moment. Like, you know, you wouldn't think it, but he is like, he's not obviously from Ireland, but he loves the hurling. But they were always supportive for everything that I wanted to do. But you could always just sense it that Mum got more pride out of when I went playing hurling over any other sport. It was the one thing she always wanted, to go watch me play. And sure, she's a fanatic hurling fan now at the moment. But yeah, like it was kind of those little influences as well that I knew that it meant a little bit more here and there. And I probably as a young kid felt I knew it meant a bit more to me. But I suppose having the feeling that your family really enjoyed you playing that sport as well, I suppose kind of pushed me towards down that route. And yeah, but they were always hugely supportive.
Yeah, seeing that your mum, like what it meant to her, did that influence you when you were deciding between football and hurling, do you think? Or did you feel like you were always
It was always
hurler?
hurling. It was just always hurling for me. I felt I could express myself a little bit more, my own personality through hurling. Like my club at home, like some of my closest friends would be from my hurling club. My hurling club is different than my football club at home, so you know, it was probably all small influences, but still it was just, I knew deep down that I just preferred playing hurling. I got my most fulfillment out of that. And yeah, it was just, I suppose, the fact that I got the opportunity to represent Wexford as well, and once you got to that kind of a stage, again, it was just how I felt after games. And obviously being able to represent Wexford was a big thing, but just to represent Wexford hurling was something that I always admired and was a massive fan of growing up. Was just Wexford hurling. Loved watching all the past lads and teams of the past and stuff, and going to Leinster finals and stuff, hurling. So yeah, there was all small influences like that, but I knew that was the game I wanted to play.
And Andrew, there's a lot of the lads even on the Irish team would have came from GA backgrounds. You have the likes of Tyke Furlong, Robbie Henshaw, who else would have?
Sean O'Brien.
Sean O'Brien's
still playing,
yeah.
I think, for the Fighting Cocks.
Yeah,
yeah. The Carneys. I think Rob was still playing with Cooley.
He went back playing with them.
Went back playing with Cooley towards the end of his his career. So, yeah, like even like Bowden Barrett and
there you go,
Geordie Barrett,
your new teammate.
Yeah, exactly. So they have a bit of football in him from when he was in Meath. So, it'll be interesting to see when he comes back to Ireland here next or this year. But yeah, sure, there's so many lads that have that background, and I suppose it does kind of translate over a small bit to certain positions. I can't say it much translates over to Tyge's position now, but sure you seen the videos of Tyge when he was younger, and
they are unbelievable. They still go around.
Yeah. Sure, they pop up every now and again. But yeah, like there's a lot of lads. There's a lot of lads who've done quite well at underage levels in both football and hurling. And I suppose there's so much kind of young people nowadays that are playing so many different sports, and then when they do have to they come down and decide what they want to do, I suppose everything helps in their development, like in terms of like their footballing ability or
the skills transfer.
The skills transfer over completely. Like it's I can't say my hurling skills translate much over to what I do now, but yeah, look, I was so lucky to be able to play so many different sports, and yeah, like it's great to see that sport in Ireland is kind of doing so well. And I suppose like what you were saying with past teams in Wexford and kind of inspiring you, like it's like I know Ty Furlong still talks about the 1996 All Ireland that like dancing at the crossroads, like it's like that's his favourite song. Like that's what he has playing in the gym the whole time in Leinster. So it's so I suppose it's this success of previous teams that also kind of influence a lot of the generations like going on to play. I suppose it's creating that excitement as well. Like I suppose like I can only really speak for myself where I think Irish rugby is in a really good place, and I think it's a great time to be a rugby player in Ireland. Doesn't matter what level you're playing at. I suppose it's just we always talk about inspiring the next generation in what we do, and I suppose it's creating like great excitement, and I suppose it's the same with Wexford and with any sport really. When a team's doing well, I suppose you're going to have more people playing it, and I suppose that's what we're trying to do. Like I suppose.
Yeah, just when you mentioned Tig there and playing the music in the gym, I do often think when you're playing at such a high level that you can't lose yourself. You have to, show your personality and be yourself in a changing room. And I suppose that often comes down to the environments you're in and if that is welcomed or not.
Yeah.
What is it like for Leinster and Ireland? Are you encouraged to be yourself? I'm sure for you it helps having characters around the place and that sort of thing.
Like, I suppose it's changed so much even in the few years that I've been a professional rugby player. Like when I first came into like the academies and stuff when I was younger, I suppose it felt very much like you're kind of nearly on the outside, when now you look at academy players and how involved they are in the senior squad and how well integrated they are into the squads. And I suppose everyone's trying, like, you kind of look at it from the standpoint that everyone's trying to help each other rather than like looking at there's a division between like you're an academy player, you have to earn your stripes when you're in here. There is a bit of that, but like it's I suppose the culture of it's changed completely, and in terms of coaches wanting players to express themselves, and I suppose they want more leaders in a team rather than kind of a handful of people at the top, and then that information kind of gets watered down as it goes down towards younger players, I suppose. But there is huge kind of emphasis on being able to express yourself both on and off the pitch. Like I suppose in both teams, in the Irish setup and both Leinster as well, coaches have done really well to, I suppose, push that culture and kind of that emphasis on being yourself and being comfortable around each other. Because like when you're well connected off the field, you're like it shows when you're playing on the field.
Yeah.
When times get tough on the pitch and everything. So I suppose when you're able to express yourself and be the person you are, like around your teammates, I suppose that makes things a lot easier.
Yeah, you're at ease then, and you have to enjoy it as well. And if you're enjoying it, enjoying the people around you, enjoying your teammates, then it will transfer onto the pitch, you would think. Lee.
You can see it even with young guys that come into squads. You nearly associate, well, especially with ourselves anyway, at times when there's some young guys can come in, they can be quite bold and it's brilliant. The excitement that they bring with themselves and their own personalities are just, they're comfortable with who they are. You see other guys, majority of guys come in at years and you nearly associate the word quiet with them, they're very quiet and stuff, but you can't imagine them being that way with their clubs or whatever. And it just might be a little bit of unsure of who they are, not who they are, but where they stand in the squad at the moment. That type of insecurity is probably there. I was actually only thinking of this the other day, for myself, I was probably always a guy that expressed myself, because I was always kind of, even when I was younger, I was going into Wexford squads, senior squads, I was quite a confident kind of a young guy going in, and it was probably again coming from just other sports, because if one sport wasn't going so well for me, the other one might have been going pretty well, and you're taking the confidence from that one, so you're just taking your confidence from different buckets, But you'd see that, and I'd find myself even sometimes one or two of the younger lads, if they're bold enough, they might have a little crack at you, and you'd have a little go back at them, and for me, it's great to see them doing that, but for me then as well, you'd notice in yourself that you're not afraid to make an idiot of yourself. You know what I mean? You like to make yourself you'd make yourself the punt of the joke at times, or and I was reflecting on that, and it's me just being comfortable with my environment and who I am, and you know, if it's me making me the joke or trying to have a bit of crack out of somebody else, that's me being comfortable now in my environment. And you see other young lads sometimes might put their head down, you know, they might not want to get involved in a joke, but that's probably just a little bit of newness in them, and they're probably waiting to try and find themselves a little bit. And like, you're right, I think when you have a panel or a squad that are so comfortable with being together so much and to be able to be themselves in that environment, I think that's where you're at your strongest. That's where you're at your most dangerous. Like, I even over the last couple of weeks I was watching the documentary on Netflix of Man City with doing the treble, and the unity that they have in their dressing room was something really stood out to me. And because I know one or two soccer players in England, and they kind of would have described to me a little bit of the nature of what they'd have in their squads, that they wouldn't be the best of mates outside of it. It's like it's work to them to go in, to do their stuff and to get out of there. They mightn't meet for anything, but the Man City squad seem to be the best of friends. They seem to have real unity, and obviously that's probably a big factor in why they go on and win a treble last year. And you know, like I believe in that, and obviously when you have young lads coming into squads like we would each year, you'd be just trying to get them to come out of themselves, trying to get them to feel comfortable. But that's not something that's up to me. Like, they have to find that themselves. They have to find where their feet are and who they are, and then just be comfortable with the fact that they might end up being the point of the joke sometimes, but sometimes it can make a lad go into himself a little bit more, which you don't want to encourage, and you don't want to see that happening. But I think you're right, the more you get that personality coming out in an individual, collectively, if it happens in a full squad, that's where I think you're at your most just at your most solid sort of state, like, you know.
Makes it a lot easier to come in and kind of, if you know you're gonna have a tough day ahead of you, like, at least you're all in it together, like. And I suppose, like, sure, like, I remember during like just conditioning and stuff, like, you still be trying to have the crack even though you're gasping for air, like you're still trying to push everyone along. But it's, I suppose it just makes it so much, like, way more enjoyable to come in, and no matter if it's through kind of good times or bad times, like, in the way sport is, ups and downs, I suppose you're always able to have that kind of those friendships and that kind of the camaraderie that you have with your teammates, and like, it just makes it way easier and so much more enjoyable at the end of the day.
Like, the last thing you want is a young guy's performance or decision making on a field be some way skewed because that's the way he's off the field. Like, if I think if a young guy is finding himself and he's confident, let's say, off the field with the group and the panel, free to express his mind, have the crack, I think on the field he'll express himself also.
Yeah.
I think if
he'll be freer to play the game he wants to play.
I think so, and that's where I'm kind of coming from. I think if they're a little bit reserved off the field, I think once they step onto it, they'll bring that with them, and they might not express themselves enough on the field the reason they got them there. The reason they got them to that level in the first place is them expressing themselves and fulfilling their potential. And you just want them to, I suppose, do it again, do you know what I mean? Go up another level. Now you're in an environment to get your game to another level. Go for it, you know. You'd love to, you just like encouraging that in young people.
Yeah. Do you find that came more from the players, or do you think that came from coaches? Like, do you find like a lot of influence that coaches have in that, or would you find that's more kind of player led?
Like, coaches would always, like, every coach that I've had throughout my career, every one of them encourage it, and the same as what you said, they want leaders all over the dressing room and not just your handful of guys. They would always encourage it, and like, you try, like, we do spend a lot of time together, you see, and I suppose coaches, they mightn't be able to get a younger lad, I suppose, out of his shell more. I think the players are more involved in doing that. And like, we tried to create that atmosphere within our group that it's free. You're free to be who you want here. Don't be scared, you know. Be whatever you want to be and just be yourself. You're in a safe space here, you know. And still, some people might not, I don't know, mightn't be confident enough to just do that or be themselves or go for it. And what they generally sometimes tend to do is stay quiet. You know, and they're limiting themselves when they do that, I suppose, and limiting their impact in the group. And then again, there's some people that are just naturally quiet that just, you know, they might be in panels and they all have different backgrounds, personalities, and some people just might be quiet. But I suppose just something that I reflected on myself. I suppose when I was younger going in, even though I said I might have been a bit confident going into these teams and stuff, but still there was an element at times where you mightn't have said something because you just mightn't have had that kind of confidence to go for something, you know. But, you know, I suppose through my time, obviously I've developed myself a bit more, and I'm comfortable with who I am. And sure, like, you're in a position now where you're just being who you like. Your rawest form is when you're in that group, like,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
who you are. And you know, you like to just encourage young lads to try and get to that level as quick as possible, because
Yeah.
that's where you're at. You're enjoying it the most when
Yeah.
you're being yourself in these teams. You know.
It is a good point with the coaches and managers and their environments that they set up obviously has a big influence on the team. And I would have associated it with the Irish team and obviously Andy Farrell and the environment that he's created. It definitely, from the outside looking in, obviously I got to cover the World Cup and that, I definitely thought that he wanted you to be yourself no matter what. And it was really refreshing to see. What was it like?
It's like you've hit the nail on the head, really. Like, it's because I've been part of Irish teams where it's you nearly feel the opposite, where like when I first came in, I was so afraid of making a mistake because of what like might be said to me, or I remember I used to like nearly kind of had such high anxiety in that environment, and just kind of I was afraid to nearly be myself, not because of what I thought of the players, but it was more just I suppose what the coaches would think of me, or I thought like nearly you have imposter syndrome when you're there. But what Andy's done, and I suppose what the other coaches have done as well, and they've given us full license to be ourselves off the pitch, and then that translates fully on the pitch. Then like you're not just playing off a set playbook. You have lads going out there and showing exactly what they can do, and showing their flair. And I suppose you have a team of incredibly talented people, and they're able to actually go out and show their talent, and not just be kind of confined to the playbook. And I suppose they're able to go a bit off script, and that's when you see kind of bits of magic on the pitch, I suppose. And I suppose it's more of a you have lads being able to flow way easier in that kind of environment, because they're not overthinking things, I suppose. It's just second nature to them. They're just doing what they do best. I suppose, like, Lee, you know exactly what it like when you're in your flow, when you're like you nearly feel unstoppable, and everything's just like nearly everything's slowed down around you, and you feel so comfortable even in a game when things are going 100 mile an hour. Like you're I suppose like that coming from the coaches, and just that you feel way more relaxed in that, because you're able to actually be yourself, and you don't really have that kind of the external kind of pressures and anxieties kind of pushing on you then. And I've just found it's definitely helped me improve my game, and you can definitely see where the teams are at the moment, both Leinster and Ireland. And all the provinces, really, like you can see how good Irish rugby has gotten to, even in the short space of 3 or 4 years when Andy's kind of taken over the Irish team there. So
yeah, it's incredible. It really is. When you say that you had anxiety sometimes going into the Irish camp, because I'm sure you want to impress, you want to do your best, you want this so badly, you want to play for Ireland, what would that have been like for you? Is it like not sleeping? Is it nervous? Is it?
I suppose, like, sure, when I came into the Ireland setup, it was something that I suppose I put up so high. Like I dreamt of playing that since I started playing rugby when I was 4 years old, and my dad taking me to Irish games and watching it the whole time when I was growing up. So I suppose I put it up there so high that I was like, okay, I can't mess this up. Like, and I've been given this opportunity. I need to impress not just the coaches, but I need to impress all the players, that a lot of the players who I would have watched and kind of nearly idolised it when I first came into the setup. You're playing with players that you would have been watching on TV, and I suppose that anxiety kind of manifested itself in terms of not sleeping, and I suppose nearly burning myself out, like just kind of trying to cover all areas and leave no stone unturned, really. Like, and that can be good to an extent when you're really diligent, and I suppose you're ticking all the boxes. But like, when the other side of it is when you're nearly pushing yourself too hard, and you're overworking, and that you burn yourself out, really. And that's I think what what I found with myself when I was starting off in the Irish setup and in the Leinster setup as well, like it was you're trying to, you feel like you're trying to impress so many people that you're nearly tipping over the edge. Then like you're going too hard in training. I remember like the amount of times I had to be told to take it easy in training, like because like you're a young player, you're trying to put your stamp, lay your mark down, and you're trying to get noticed by the coaches, and you can kind of come off as trying too hard sometimes, and sometimes you get into, it can end up in a bit of a training kind of spat then, like I've been in a few of them, like starting off where but like I suppose it all just came from, I suppose I was more insecure with myself when I was starting off, and then as I got more and more confident in the setup, and I suppose that helped me on and off the pitch as well, being in that environment.
And do you think like sports psychologists or anything like that play a part to sort of help you get by that?
Yeah, I suppose like we've been working with Gary Keegan in our setup. He's done a lot with Irish boxing. Would have been his sport. He was a boxer himself. But he's in with us constant the whole time. He's in there full time with us in the Irish setup. And like I suppose he just kind of, he makes you look at the game in a completely different way, of kind of being able to control everything that's in your power to control, like, and kind of forgetting everything that's out of your hands, really. Like I suppose it helps you kind of narrow your focus, and being in that environment as well, like the coaches and Gary Keegan are huge on just when you're on, like, and then when you're off, just completely switch off, and like, because you're not burning yourself out, then you have the energy to show up for training. Because like when you're in such a high pressure environment, it's not just the physical toll it's taken, it's the mental toll. Is huge, where it's natural to be nervous for games coming up, where you might have had a bad training session, but I suppose the big thing about high level sport is just being able to kind of nearly compartmentalize and put it away and be able to focus on the next thing. And I think that's something sports psychologists that I've dealt with are huge on.
Would you have worked with a sports psychologist, Lee?
Yeah, I have over the years. Like some years there would have been a sports psychologist involved with us, and then other years there wouldn't have been. This year, yeah, we have a sports psychologist there again, and you know he's great in what he does. And again, similar to what Andrew's saying, it's more like sports psychology is more to do with, I suppose, how you can. Obviously, it's for optimal performance, but it's also for, like, I suppose your own well-being and stuff off the field, like that you're not bringing your problems or sport home with you all the time, and that you have a good healthy balance in a relationship with sport. But like even within sport itself, I suppose the psychology of, for us, like we focus a lot on, you know, our restarts, and like again, how do you let things go? Like in a game of hurling, I suppose there's so many ebbs and flows and mistakes be made, and there's teams get purple patches. There's different. You get a purple patch. How do you deal with that? You know what I mean? How do you deal with, you know, slowing down an opposition when they have their moments? And you know, you'd be, if for me example, if I happen to be involved in making a mistake, which happens very often, you know, how do you let it go? Do you dwell on it? And some people are good at just moving on, and some people ain't. So I suppose, but you still have to deal with the group collectively in terms of how do you bring that into a dressing room. That, like, even let's say the weekend there, you know, we heard in Dublin, and Dublin hit us for 2 late goals at the end of the game and snatched a draw. It's hard to take, you know, coming off the field. You feel like it's a defeat to some degree, and you know, this is where the sports psychology steps in now. You kind of say, right, we've a 6-day turnaround. We're playing in 6 days time. We have not got the time to dwell on what just happened. We have to move on, and the sports psychology all filters into that, of how you let things go, how you move on to the next task. And although it's a couple of days gone now, and it still registers a little bit, but your mind is kind of flowing in a different way now. But like the sports psychology all comes into all those factors in sport, in your life, everything. And like the question, yeah, I have dealt with sports psychologists over the years, but I haven't dealt with one individual over a
Long
continuous
period,
amount
yeah.
of years, which you'd wonder would have had a little bit more of an effect because they're always reiterating the same things. If it was the one, I suppose, individual. But
I'd say it's important to get one that you connect with as well.
Yeah, like I suppose
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like not everyone has the same kind of. You're not going to have that same kind of fit.
Yeah.
You need to, I suppose, you need to have that that kind of connection and be able to like understand what they're saying, and I suppose be able to take on board what they're saying.
Yeah.
Because like I remember when I started off, I was like, "Gee, sports psychologist, like, do I need this?" Like, your kind of ego you can get in the way like a small bit, but like I suppose it's nearly those small percentages.
That's it.
As a sports psychologist coming in, like speaking to a team, it's a small percentage. It's like when you go through a tough patch in a game, you give away a penalty or a free or something. You have to be able to park that in a game, like, and it's tough. Like, some players, like I've in the past been very bad with that, and I think I've come to learn that it's just a necessary part of the game, and you have some lads that sometimes you can look at, and sometimes lads need to be pulled along a small bit, and like, sure, you even see us in games, like after we're like huddled up and we're taking like 2 breaths, after a good or a bad moment, just so we can reset and move on to the next moment, because I suppose that's all that really matters is the next moment. Next moment in front of you. So
yeah, just like Lee was saying there, with having these defeats and thinking about them, like I said, against Dublin last weekend, you have these moments, they play back in your head all the time, and you might wake up in the morning and think about it, or go to sleep and think about it. Have you had that with, obviously you've had the World Cup?
yeah,
I'm sure
plenty
that's
times.
Yeah, it's tough to get over. Is there moments in your head that you play back, or have you got better with it?
Like, I think as athletes, you remember more the negatives than you do the positives. Like, you could go out and have the best game of your life, but you were like, oh, I dropped the ball though in one time during the game, or you gave away a penalty or something. I think that's like a lot of that is just human nature as well, where you're inclined to kind of focus on the negatives too much. And look, I've made myself the victim of that, like in terms of just feeling sorry for myself. And it's like you have so many games where you're like, especially the World Cup, where I suppose it was the excitement, and I suppose the buzz of it and the build up and everything, like the hype built up around it, I suppose, which made it so difficult to kind of take, where it was nearly like it was I suppose at the time you think it's nearly like the end of the world when you lose a game like that, but you just kind of have to take a step back and look at it, like we got to a quarter final in a World Cup. We're still you're still representing your country, but yeah, it is I suppose hard after the few days of like a big loss. I suppose it's easier said than done, I suppose, a lot of the time, to kind of to move on from things like that, because like a lot of the time, like playing rugby is something that I find I do best. And I suppose when it's not going your way, I suppose you're just kind of looking at things, or what now, like, and that's what that kind of felt like. It felt nearly like you came up a bit empty, like in the end. And I suppose it's the part of sport, like you win and lose, so it's part and parcel with it, like. And I suppose you just have to kind of to learn how to win and learn how to lose as well. So it's
a tough one.
Yeah.
What was it like for those, say, few weeks when you got home?
It was tough, like, because we were in that environment, we were in camp, in that setup for we'd started training from like June up till the end of October, like, so you were in camp, like you were in around these people for months. So like it was your home for 4 or 5 months, like, so
separation anxiety,
exactly, like you're like, it's just kind of what you came to know, like it's and then kind of it's like the cord is just pulled, like, and the lights went off, like when you just kind of reality kicks in, you're home and you're out of that environment. I suppose you don't really have we didn't really have much of a debrief straight after the quarter final. It was just kind of, right, we're going on Monday.
And the shock, and there's no closure.
Yeah. It's so you're kind of left to dwell on that, like, yourself a small bit. And I suppose, like, yeah, when I came home, it was a complete shock, like a small bit, like, kind of, you're nearly like reintegrating back into home life, and like, it was, I suppose I just kind of wanted to be by myself a small bit, like, and kind of try to process it in a small bit, like, in, yeah, like I said, it's one of those things, like, I suppose you learn a lot more from losing big games, and it's not just as an athlete, but also who you are as a person, and it definitely, I suppose, like, hardens you, and kind of prepares you, I suppose, for both wins and losses, and kind of anything that gets thrown your way, both in sport and in life as well, because, like, it's not always going to go your way, same as anything really, but yeah, it was definitely tough, but yeah, sure, took a few weeks to get back to it, but then I was back in training with Leinster for 3 weeks after, and it's nearly like a clean slate.
Helps,
like,
yeah, of course.
It's getting back to, I suppose, doing what you do best, and getting back to doing what you enjoy, getting back into a new environment, new people. It was because you're back into a different team, like, so just give you something new to focus on, that kind of helps you kind of put things in perspective, and kind of helps you move on to that next moment.
I often think about your family at that point then as well, like your partners and things like that. How do they deal with that? How do they, like, see you're so low, and, you know, it must be tough for them at that point as well after a loss.
Yeah, everyone around you gets affected, you know.
Yeah.
Like obviously, we don't experience what Andrew and the Irish lads went through, obviously being a part of something for that many weeks on end and just being together. Like, we have our training camps that might last 4 or 5 days, and I feel like I have separation anxiety when I come back from them, because I just feel like that's my network now, and I want to stay in there, I want to be in that, and that's where I'm comfortable, and that kind of stuff. And, like, you know, in your experience, like, it's 100 times worse, and you probably would need a couple of weeks to reflect on. Like, after a couple of days, I'm back in the bubble, I'm back in my routine, back at home, you're fine, that kind of stuff. But yeah, like, during defeats, and, like, look, when there's defeats involved in your career, and maybe lack of performances or whatever, like, disappointment is a good thing, I find, in sport. Like, I find it's a huge motivator, and it's a driver. Like, obviously there's, like I said, this week there's lads coming out of our game and we're disappointed, but you have to try and use that as fuel as well, you know what I mean? Can you get an extra 1 or 2% during the week of maybe you're in your gym session or in your training session or whatever it might be? But, like, yeah, to answer your question, of course, partners, family members, everyone around you at the time can somehow be on eggshells around you and have to suffer with you almost. Like, it's a real selfish thing, it is. But, like, I suppose they're also the people that bring you back out of it, do you know what I mean, out of your mood. They kind of bring you back down to earth. Like, sometimes they might have an off day, and if I'm still having my off day, they'll let me know, like, you've had your day, like, you know, it's
mine today.
It's mine, like, don't give me that attitude today, like, and you just go, you know what, you're right, and you have to just get on with it, and it's a great way to kick you back into gear, like, you know, little things like that. But yeah, like, everyone plays their part in you trying to get your performance, and then, unfortunately, everyone in this play a part, regardless if you win or lose, like, you know, they end up playing a little part that way too. But look, that's all just sport, and that's just the support. That's just the levels of support that people close to you around you will give you, and you surround yourself with good people, obviously, to maintain, I suppose, to have that support. So yeah, look, it is a selfish thing, but with defeats do come some sacrifices for others too, I suppose.
Yeah, because they get the good times, but they get the bad times because they're so invested in it.
Yeah. I think, sure, after it's, even though Champions Cup final last year, and I think my dad thought he was playing in it. Sure, the amount of, he was more mentally trained than I was probably from it. But, like, you see how much it means to all those people around you, I suppose, when you are winning, and then of course when you're losing as well. Like, you see how much it means to I suppose the people who you're doing it for. And I suppose that's the people who are there in your support network. And it means so much to them, I suppose. Like, I remember getting my first cap for Ireland, and seeing how much it meant to my dad that day. I was over in New Jersey, where I got my first cap. So I remember seeing how much it meant to him, and I suppose you're making memories along the way, no matter if you are winning and losing. You're making memories with your mates that you're playing with, and then also with your family. And like I said, it's the people you're doing. I feel like I'm doing it for. Like I suppose that it's that motivation as well to kind of keep pushing through tough times as well in sport. It's that motivation to get that extra few percent as well. But yeah, it's your support network is incredibly I suppose important. To have around you, having good people around you,
absolutely.
makes things a lot easier. And I suppose but it is quite selfish.
It can be. Like sometimes I like you forget that they go through every part of that emotion with you and that journey with you. Like they're so high for you when you win. They're buzzing, and even the build up to a game, they're so excited. They're part of it all. And then if you do end up suffering a defeat, they're just every bit as disappointed and hurt about it too, and you forget that should you be there for them a little bit too, because they're part of the journey with you, you know what I mean? And sometimes they might need that little bit of comfort in just a conversation, but like obviously after defeat, one of the hardest thing to do is to talk about it. Go home and talk about it. You're just like, you just don't want to talk about it, and the smallest question they might ask you could set you off, like, and you forget that they probably need that bit of closure too, and just being able to, what happened there, like, you know what I mean, or whatever, and just so they can park it themselves, like, and you forget that as an athlete sometimes, that you need to do those things as well. You probably have to be that guy at home as well to kind of allow them to get in a little bit more, I suppose, because like there's certain things that happens before games, like when there's teams being released or whatever it might be, that you have to keep information away from everyone. You feel like you're lying to everybody, you know what I mean? What's the team? I just don't know.
Especially in GA, because it's 10 minutes before, 15 changes.
You actually haven't, what's the team for the weekend? Like, they haven't told us yet. You feel like you're lying to everyone, but it's just one of those things, and like you do let them in a small bit. You obviously, they deserve that, to get some certain amount of information out of you, but you feel like you're a closed book when it comes to a lot of things, but we kind of have to work on ourselves to be a little bit more open when it comes to aftermath of games of stuff,
And would you get nervous before a game? Like, bring us back to the World Cup, walking out 80,000 people. Would you get nervous or buzzing?
100%, yeah. I went through like phases of like I wasn't able to keep anything down, like before games, how nervous I was getting, like.
Really?
It wasn't that bad during the World Cup. I was actually able to like contain myself a bit more, but like it was, I suppose, like when you put something up nearly on a pedestal, you can make yourself a lot more nervous and than you actually need to be. Like some nerves are good, like, because it means, I suppose, it shows it means something to you. But like if you can let the nerves get the better of you sometimes, and that's where you can go into your shell a small bit, and that's when you're not being the player your teammates need you and the player that you need of you. So like, but yeah, like I get nervous for training sometimes, like something like, but but like the going out in the World Cup in Stade de France, it was kind of next level. Like it was nearly emotional, like how much people kind of came out to support us. Like you're looking at how much it means to everyone being there, and I suppose you're nervous of not going out, and you're nervous of letting people down. I suppose letting people down who've come over to France to see you play. Nervous of I suppose not fulfill your potential. Nervous of not giving 100% performance that your teammates need you. But like if you're nervous about all that, like you're going to go into your shell, I suppose, and not give the performance you need. I suppose you need to back yourself completely going into games like that, and I suppose just enjoying the moment. That's something I've really come to learn, as being like a professional athlete, is going out and enjoying the occasions and not taking it for granted, I suppose, like, because you only have so long as an athlete, and in terms of a kind of a lifespan of an athlete, that you have to go out and enjoy it, go out and kind of
wish it away.
Yeah, exactly. Go and relish the occasion, take all the crowd in, and you're taking the crowd in, but you're also shutting them out at the same time, because you need to focus on what you're doing. But like, I remember during the anthems and stuff in the World Cup, like it's you're trying to take it all in, and you're adding fuel to the fire. You're using that kind of energy the crowd is giving you, and using the occasion to your advantage as well.
So you were getting sick before games. Did the coaches see you and think,
Oh no, I was just running off to the jacks.
okay, so no one would see?
People
sort of
probably
thing?
heard me, like, yeah.
Would anyone else be like that?
A few times, yeah. Like before big games, like you just kind of, you nearly have that kind of sick feeling. I suppose, like if you're having that, like having the
Butterflies
pre-match
times 10.
meal, having a pre-match meal is sometimes the worst time of the day for me, because like I've no appetite whatsoever to eat, because like your mind's going, your body's nearly kind of like, I find it so hard to eat before games. I was like, I need whatever's easiest to get into me. Like I don't know what it is. I need something, like I always have pancakes and maple syrup before games now, because I just find
easier.
that's the easiest thing to eat for me. Like, and
And
like
how far
that's-
in advance would you have that?
Oh, I
then?
need to have it like 4 or 5 hours.
And
4
nothing
hours
else
and
then?
nothing else. Like I might have like a few carb drinks, obviously my little dragon, but like I wouldn't be. No, I'd find it's one of the worst times of the week. Like having the pre-match meal. Like
You're not
'cause
looking forward to it.
You're just force feeding yourself, I suppose. Like, but yeah, like it's.
You're fuel. You're just making sure you're not going to go
Yeah,
hungry.
exactly.
That's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
all you're doing, really.
Yeah,
Isn't it?
sure. Like even Paul O'Connell, like he gives us a bit of a chat now before we usually head off on the bus to the stadium. But like he said it a few times now, was like, lads, I don't envy the pre-match meal. That was his worst part of the day as well. Like it was trying to get the food on board beforehand. Like it's just force feeding yourself, I suppose. But yeah, like it's especially, I suppose, for home games. So like before we go to the Aviva with Ireland, you have crowds and crowds of people outside the Shelbourne Hotel waiting for you to just walk to the bus. Like you have people queuing up there for 2.5 hours before we leave the hotel, just to like clap us onto the bus before we get the bus to the stadium. And sometimes that's the most nervous part of the day for me, but it's good that I can kind of get those nerves out of me, and kind of, yeah, I suppose that can be kind of the worst part of the day, because you're just like, oh, people have come this far just to see us getting on a bus, like, but yeah, it's gotten better now. I haven't
That's
good before a game recently anyway, so.
Oh wow! And Lee, what is it like for you, or what do you eat, or how far in advance when you have a game?
It would vary. Like we always get the standard chicken and pasta, like, you know, before, or chicken and rice maybe before.
Are you giving it, or you make it yourself?
Like if you're on away games, because you're on the road a lot, or like we'd always, like, rule of thumb is to eat 3 hours before throw in. So we'd always time ours, like if we're travelling away, say maybe to Dublin or wherever, we'd have our pre-match meal all together in a hotel, and usually it's just a combination of chicken and rice or chicken and pasta, which I particularly do not like eating before a game. And then if you're playing home games, you usually do your own meals. Some whatever coaches, sometimes we used to meet in a hotel before the home games as well, and we'd have our pre-match meal together. But yeah, my pre-match meal, I'm not crazily superstitious about it. I try and just stick to what I eat most days, you know, in the mornings or whatever. And then, like, again, like I said, if we're just on away games, it's just like your chicken and rice in hotels and that kind of stuff. So, but generally it's 3 hours before a match. Obviously the days beforehand, you're loading up on carbs. You're just getting you're fueling. That's what you're doing before games, 2 or 3 days out. And then the day of the game, like Andrew said, he finds it hard to eat. And I was surprised to hear that like you'd eat even 5 hours before a game.
I'd need to, like,
If I had 5 hours before a game, I'd get quite hungry.
Yeah,
And that's just me. I'd get quite hungry. Like after 3 hours, I'd be like, I'm going into the game. I'd feel nearly like I'm starving here. I should have had something before, like, you know, 3 hours or whatever. The 5 hour window might be just a bit too long for me. But then sometimes, I suppose, the 3 hour window, you can really feel stuffed. Do you know what I mean? So I still, after all the years, I can't find the balance of what I need to be doing. Maybe I just need to go for the 4 hours. Don't do the 5 hours, don't do the 3, go for the 4. But Yeah, like look, it's generally that sort of routine on game day, and you're to me as well. Also, when I'm eating that 3 hours beforehand or whatever it might be, I'm not necessarily hungry for food. I'm eating it because I know I'm going to get hungry if I leave it, if I don't eat at all. So you're kind of just making sure you don't go hungry the day
Yeah,
you're eating.
yeah.
Probably for you as well. If you knew you could, you probably wouldn't eat at all.
Yeah, yeah,
Do you know?
fully. Like it's like
one of those things.
depends
Yeah.
like what time the game's at as well. Like
It does,
so
yeah.
much can change. Like a lot of the time, if we have sometimes if you're on away games, you have like a 1 o'clock kickoff. It's so handy because you're just up, get your breakfast at normal time in the morning, and then that'll be it. Like I won't eat before a game. But if you have like an 8 o'clock kickoff or a 9 o'clock kickoff, sometimes those are the ones that take it out of you because like you're just
The whole day.
you're the whole
thinking.
day kind of you have the whole day to kind of think of the game, and it's so hard not to try to burn
Yeah.
yourself out. You're just trying to like I'll try to split the day up into two if we have a late kickoff. So I'll try get up real early in the morning, like stupidly early, and then kind of have kind of I split that as like the first part of the day, and then I'll try go back to bed like in the middle of the day, and then once I'm up after that, then I treat that like kind of I would like an early kickoff then.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
trying to like
Does anyone else do that?
yeah, like a few lads.
Yeah.
In fairness, we had to get used to some sort of routine because we had so many late kickoffs over in during the World Cup. So it's just kind of finding what works best for you. Like everyone's different, I suppose, and yeah, like it's the long days take it out of you. Like I suppose like I'll be early kickoff man rather than a late one.
And during the week then, what does your weekly intake look like in terms of calories, and are you really strict, and do you track it, and how many carbs you're taking on, the protein, all of that?
Yeah, like I would be very nutritionally aware. Now, I probably don't go into it in the depth that I should. Like I don't calorie count. I kind of just monitor my own funny way of doing things, but I find I have a grip on things and what I'm taking in and what I'm not. But obviously, if you go down the route of calorie counting, you might get a little bit more of a balance on your energy efficiency. And if you have it all documented, you're able to. If there's one day came or 1 week came, you didn't feel like you had as much energy as the week before, you could go back and see, I took in so many calories the last 5 days than I did 10 days ago, and that's why I have lack of energy or whatever. But like for me, I couldn't tell you what I consume in calories a day, but I know I just have a balance of what I do, and I have my own structure and routine of what I do. Like on the days that I don't train, depending if it's a really heavy workload week. Now at the moment in the middle of championship and weeks come thick and fast, you're just eating a lot of carbs throughout the week anyway, and your proteins, everything for your recovery. But I suppose in my like pre-season, or maybe sometimes where you get a window where there's not many games on the bounce, you're balancing out your calories versus proteins versus fats. Like on my days I'm not training, I'm trying to limit the amount of carbs I'm getting and getting into me. I'm always eating the same amount of protein on a daily basis, and then you're obviously putting in your fats as well. But like on the days I'm not training, like I said, I limit the carbs. Protein is always the same. And the days I am training, then I'm loading up on carbs. So that's just the simple, funny way that I do it.
It seems like you're in a routine now, and you
Yeah.
know what works
Yeah.
for you. What is it like for you, Andrew?
I'd be more or less similar to you. Like I'd be,
Okay.
except I like tracking things. I like having my fitness pal that I'm just like putting everything into.
Brilliant.
More so just because like I suppose I know exactly how much protein I'm getting. I know exactly how much I know exactly how much of everything I'm eating and how much I need to eat. And sure, like it's I suppose sometimes I like playing a bit heavier. I suppose it's the weight difference for me makes a bit like it plays a bit more of a part than it does for you in hurling.
And what
like,
makes that just personally you want to be heavier?
personally, yeah, like if you know you're
Wouldn't
coming up
have
for
anything to do with an opponent, would it? Or
like certain if you're
Really?
like sometimes it might probably be like a mental thing in your head that you're
Okay.
like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
I need to pack down the scrum this week against a big pack, so I want to be a few kilo heavier. Like so, like it might be a bit of like in your head, but like sometimes I prefer to be a bit heavier, for a course of games, like for obviously for Six Nations and stuff. Like I like to be a small bit heavier just because the games are so intense, and like I suppose it's probably in my head a small bit, but like other parts of the season I prefer it to be a bit lighter, so I'd cut my calories down a small bit more. And
you're doing all this in season.
yeah, like kind of changing it up every now and again, like kind of cycling it every couple of weeks. But yeah, like a lot of the time, like pre-season and stuff, I'll be trying to come in as light as I can into the season, just so like it makes running a bit easier when you're a few kilos lighter. And then you start kind of, I suppose, throughout the season. You're not looking to make too much drastic changes, especially when you're.
So what are you
on the
talking
go.
about then in terms of like what are you going from to in terms of weight? Like I'm about 118 at the moment, and like I had been 122 in the season, and like that could drop down to 116, 115. So when you're saying you want to put on like the extra few kilos, like what's the maximum you'll put on?
Oh, like I'll put on maybe 3 or 4.
Okay,
Yeah,
right, yeah.
But
yeah.
like I'm.
How quickly you
Oh
find
jeez,
that
I
turnaround?
look at food and I start putting on
Goes
weight.
on.
Like, oh jeez, like,
Yeah.
yeah, but like, sure, we have so many, like, you have so many experts in kind of the sport. You have your nutritionists and everything that are, and everything's so like personalized now. It's not like kind of a one thing fits all. Like especially in the nutritionists we have, where everything's kind of like tailored to the individual now. I suppose like you need that because like you have so many people with different needs and everything in the sport, and I suppose I've kind of you come just to learn about these things and become more what works for you, I suppose. And I've just found tracking things works for me, and sure, I'm quite like very nutrition conscious about things, and I suppose it's just kind of a lot of it's common sense as well, like in kind of knowing the good best choices to have and kind of eating good food and stuff, and not eating crap most of the time. So
Most of the time.
yeah, you can treat yourself every now and again, I suppose. But yeah, I suppose like when you're in season, you're trying to be in the best shape possible, because obviously you could be carrying knocks and from game to game, so you're trying to recover the best you can, and the best way you can do that is obviously giving yourself the best chance by eating the right things, making the right choices. So yeah, like, but like it wouldn't, I tell people like I wouldn't even eat that much, I suppose, compared to like some people would have to eat quite a lot to like keep on weight and even to like put on weight. I remember like one of the lads was eating upwards of like 8,000 or 9,000 calories like per day just to keep his weight on,
size,
just to maintain his weight, because he was losing weight so easy like that he would just have to eat basically anything.
And it's a massive chore, like.
Oh, like it's you're force feeding yourself throughout the day, like. Yeah, but I suppose it just comes as part of the game, and comes as a learning what to eat, I suppose. And you have so many experts around you to pointing you in the right direction as well. So.
And then after a game, then is there a go-to meal? Do you like to have a cheat meal, or?
I think you probably could both relate. After a game, you're just conscious of getting calories in. You got to just get his calories in. And for me, it's no matter what way I can do that. Because like after a game, the last thing you want to be sitting down to is just a bland.
Yeah.
Again, your chicken and rice maybe, like, you know. But so I like to look for something with flavour and, you know, has a bit of everything in it. Like, could be a pizza, a takeaway. I do after every game, I would, and it's something that we nearly bring into trend to follow, and we all get excited asking each other what you have, what did you eat, you know, or you text each other what are you getting tonight. You know? It's probably to make yourself feel a bit better, but you're not the only one.
They're
people are doing it as well.
So that would pizzas, takeaways, something to do with chips. That's what I go to after games.
Would that be the same for you, Andrew?
I'd be like, a lot of the time I wouldn't even have appetite like for a few hours after a game, like, because you're so like, I suppose adrenaline's still going, so you're just like, the last thing I want to do is like, a lot of the time after games we'll go up to like a function room, we'll have dinner with like the other team, but it would be like fish and vegetables and stuff, and it's the last thing I want to. I don't even want to smell that right now. Like, I just, like, so it would be the same, be on the same line as Lee, just kind of anything that's on any of the apps or anything. When it's open and late at night. So but it is nice to know when you're not when everyone's in the same boat.
You know, stuff in your face.
You go over to one of the lads' houses and you don't order together just to make sure.
I do remember, I think it was Scotland in the Six Nations last year. That was away in Murrayfield, and I remember the media room was like near where the changing rooms were, and it was a really late game. I think it was at 8 o'clock, but I
Yeah.
remember it was late, and I remember all of you getting like 30 pizzas arrived
Oh, yeah.
to the change room, and as you walked out, they just handed a pizza
Yeah.
to each of you as you got on the bus.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
was like, God, they are normal. Like,
No, like a lot of the time after, like if we're away games and like sometimes we fly back straight after the game. Sometimes we'll stay over, but like if we're flying back straight after, they'll just give us something like on the go, take on the bus, like which is handy, like because you're not sitting down to a full meal, you're just eating something, whatever's
yeah.
easiest thing, whatever's like. Sometimes they have like goujons and stuff in the change rooms after pizza or whatever.
They're
so.
easy to
Exactly.
flavour in your
Yeah,
mouth,
yeah.
like, you know, it's that's what it is.
And in terms of the gym, then obviously a lot of people will be really interested to hear what your weekly gym routine is like. Do you want to take us through what yours is likely?
It varies throughout the season, I suppose. I'll try and structure it. Like, say, so my pre-season before I go back in with Wexford, I probably have a couple of weeks or months to myself, and that's when I like to go in and just focus on things I want to develop in the gym regarding muscle mass or size. Just try to develop muscle in an area that I find it needs to be developed, just for my own personal reasons. And I could hit the gym 4 or 5 times in a week, you know, through that period of my year. But then obviously when I get back into my pre-season and I'm on the field like 3 days a week doing a lot of pre-season work and good conditioning, long distance running, all that kind of stuff, like I go back to like 2 days a week, and if I could, I'll try throwing a sneaky third one, which probably doesn't help me in the long run, because that week, like the mileage you cover and stuff, you'd be massively fatigued, and recovery is the massive sort of element you need to go after during that period of time. And then obviously when you're starting to commit to your competition, like your leagues and championship kind of end up being similar-ish in terms of what your gym looks like. You're definitely only doing 2 maximum gym sessions a week, and you're being very specifically just focusing on like power and strength in those phases of the year. Like at the moment where we do maybe 2 gym sessions, it's like nearly 2 or 1.5 even gym sessions a week at the moment. And so for the moment now, what I'm at is just like Monday after Sunday we play a game. Monday we generally take the day of recovery. Tuesday will be our gym session, our gym day. Wednesday we're back on the field. Thursday some lads could probably go and do 50 to 70% of a gym session if they felt they wanted it. Friday you're back in the field, and Saturday either have a day off or you're playing Saturday or Sunday. So that's the way my weeks will go for now for the next couple of months.
And when you're in the gym, what are you doing? And like what are you lifting? What are the reps like? How many sets? That sort of thing.
Again, it changes throughout the year. When I'm obviously going to try and put on some size, you're a lot of sets, a lot of reps, a lot of food at that period of time as well. It's you're trying to get calories in just to build muscle. And it's a huge factor that a lot of people probably forget, especially young people, that they forget. Like they go to the gym but I see people in the gym that might be there for 5 or 6 months and you can't really see a massive change in them. And I just think it's down to the nutrition and what they're not getting into their bodies. You just have to eat when you want to build muscle, and Andrew will even talk more about that. Like, and then obviously again coming into your competitions, you're more so focusing on how heavy, what can you lift, and how heavy can you lift it. How heavy can you lift? Like that's what you're focusing on, just for speed and power, and you're doing all your plyometrics and stuff like that to get your fast twitch muscle fibers going. Just because obviously the world of GA, you just need speed, power and speed. So yeah, that's what we're at the moment. So our reps, our sort of rep range at the moment is you're only going from like 4 to 6 reps, and you'll be doing 4 sets of like maybe you're squatting, bench pressing, shoulder pressing, your rack pulls, all that, pull-ups. It's all about how heavy what can you push, the heaviest you can push for 4 to 6 reps.
And what is the heaviest that you can squat?
I actually don't squat because it doesn't agree with me that much. My hamstrings suffer a little bit over the last number of years because I've a bad knee that I damaged back in 2019, and I just find now when I squat it tightens up my lower back and my glutes, and it puts loads of more pressure on my hamstrings. So I have to leave it out of my gym program. So I kind of do more like hamstring curls and like leg extensions and stuff like that, but I don't specifically squat anymore. like when I was younger, I would have squatted at the time in all my gym programs, but just not anymore.
That's good to know. Like, that's probably good advice to listen to. You can get all this advice to do all these deadlifts and squats, but if it doesn't agree with you, you're the only one that's going to know that and realise that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't. Like I'd have a bit of a rehab structure to get through with my hamstring at times as well, that I just have to keep loading up on my hamstring at certain times as well. So like I do have a program for, like, it's probably just simple enough one with my hamstrings and legs, so that probably accommodates the fact that I don't squat. So you have to just find something that works for you, that again you're not falling behind in terms of any strength areas. So like I revert to that. It's an alternative for me squatting.
And then for you, Andrew, what is your weekly gym routine?
We'll be kind of quite similar at the moment, like, because because the main focus is going out and performing on the pitch. So like the coaches are happy to kind of taper back on the gym session, because they want to get the best out of you. They want to save your energy for obviously big games coming up, and like we've a semi-final next week where like we're in Croke Park. So like that's our main focus, and a lot of the times it would be the same in like Six Nations in Irish camp player, where you're doing kind of the minimum effective dose to obviously get that stimulus in the gym, while also having the energy to go out and train, and then perform on the weekend. That's your main focus, is going out and having the energy and making sure you're doing the right thing for your body, listen to what your body needs, because not everyone's the same. Like not everyone's the same in terms of like you were saying, like the squats don't agree with it. In rugby you have all shapes and sizes. You have 6'8", like you had Dev Toner, like, who was I don't think I've ever seen him squat in my life, but like but yeah, you have all shapes and sizes in it. I suppose you're just finding the best kind of program that fits you, and that's something that I've just found I've been able to kind of tailor to myself. Like a lot of the coaches will know exactly what I'm doing, like they'll know I can do my own thing a small bit in the gym, because I've got that experience in there. Like I know what I'm doing, and I know what my body needs. When like as kind of a young player coming in, you kind of, I suppose you need that guidance, and because you can fall into that of pushing yourself too hard, when your body doesn't need it. When what you need to be doing is kind of recovering and stuff, I suppose. But I suppose like current routine is so like if you play on a Saturday, you'll be in Monday, I suppose. You'll be kind of your main lifting day. You get your kind of your heavy squat, your heavy bench done that day. You'll be on pitch. It'd be kind of a lighter pitch session on a Monday, and then Tuesday you'd have a heavier pitch session. So you do mainly your kind of your robustness work. So like stuff that's gonna prevent you, injury prevention mainly. So you're gonna do a lot of your calf and hamstring work, the two of the biggest areas that get injured in rugby. And I'm not sure in hurling if you have a lot of lads pulling up with like calf and hamstring, that's what you get from obviously your high speed kind of stuff. Like that's where you get your problems. But that's what coaches are huge on, or S&C coaches are big on now, is injury prevention. And obviously everyone's different. Everyone kind of has their own physio programs and what they need to do. So like that'll be your Tuesday of kind of doing what you need to do, I suppose. And so it's not that taxing, but it's nearly the most important day for you, because that's what's going to give you longevity in the game. It's going to keep you on the field and keep you injury free, hopefully. Thursday then would be like, we'd have the day off Wednesday usually if it's a Saturday game, and then Thursday would be kind of like your speed power day. You might do a bit of upper body stuff like if you wanted, but it's mainly like you're mainly focused on your speed and power. So it could be like you could be doing like CMJs, like jumps and speed work, plyos and stuff like that. So mainly priming your body for a pitch session, which is short and sharp usually on a Thursday. You're usually going out and basically just kind of fixing things from Monday and Tuesday before the weekend. And then Friday you wouldn't gym, but you do like you have your captain's run usually in the stadium, run through a few plays, a few lineouts and stuff. So then you're ready for Saturday. So yeah, it's a busy enough week, but
Intense,
like but like sure, they it's structured quite well. I think the coaches have structured it incredibly well in both setups in Leinster and Ireland, like so lads can get the best out of themselves, and obviously so lads are physically and mentally ready going into the weekend, because it doesn't really matter what you're lifting in the gym. I suppose it just matters what you're doing on the pitch on the weekend. But I suppose it is the work you do put in the gym and on the field, I suppose, in training that kind of pays dividends, like on the field. And I suppose pre-season is where you put in, I suppose, the most amount of work and prepares you for the season ahead. Like you're putting in a huge amount, like that's your base, I suppose. And then you're building on that. You're probably maintaining in the kind of heavy, the more physical parts of the season where you have back-to-back games and everything. You're just looking to maintain and stuff. You're not looking to make any big PBs in the gym or anything. You're just looking to perform, really. And then if you do have like a weekend off or a few weeks off, you can kind of look to push on a bit more in the gym, because you don't have that game to prepare for on the weekend. So it's kind of ebbs and flows throughout the season, I suppose.
And people would be mad to know what those PBs are. Say if it was pre-season, that's probably when you lift maybe your heaviest.
Yeah.
What is your heaviest you've ever squatted or deadlift? Start with
I'm
squat.
going to get ambushed.
Sorry, Lee.
My squat was 325 when I was like.
Good Lord.
Well, I
Pounds, he means pounds.
325.
Yeah, that was. But like, I wouldn't be going near that anymore. Mainly just out of kind of. I don't need to be doing that constantly now. I don't need to be. It's a risk reward. And kind of. I was doing that when I was like nearly kind of breaking into the team where I wasn't playing as much. But I was just
doing it when he was 12 years old.
Yeah.
That's what you're trying to say.
Yeah. Well,
I was doing it just because I suppose
unbelievable way.
And
I
then
suppose I enjoyed the gym
yeah.
so much growing up. I suppose it was just kind of, it was nearly like when I was going through school and kind of wasn't sure whether I wanted to do rugby. I was like, I'll just go to the gym as a job for instead of being a rugby player. Before, obviously, I knew I was going to play rugby. I was like, I didn't even know what I wanted to do, like in college and stuff. I was like, so that's where I used to spend most of my time when I was in school. Like, sure, one of the PE teachers would give me the keys for the gym, and if I had Irish, which I wasn't very good at, or maths, which I wasn't too fond of, like. I'd get the keys for the gym and usually head down there. So
it paid off.
Yeah. So
there
like,
you go.
I suppose
if he was skipping maths class, he was still counting numbers on you when he was in the gym.
Pretty high numbers too.
I was counting in colours, like the weights. Like,
and in terms of deadlift, then
deadlift, I suppose I haven't, like, back when I was just gymming not for performance. I would have done a lot of deadlifts, so I did like 300 for 3. I never really did like that's on like straight bar, like, you know, like a lot of lads would do the trap bar deadlift in as like a variation to squat.
Safer, so
100%, because it's more like a squat than doing a deadlift, so it's less stress on your back and everything, less stress on your hamstrings. So a lot of lads would do kind of trap bar deadlifts, but like that I'd switch up throughout the season between squat and the trap bar deadlift, because like it's just like, especially after playing a game where you're pulling yourself through Monday, like last thing you want to be doing is like kind of putting yourself through hardship, like you're just like, I have to squat today. So like a lot of the times throughout the season I'll swap up between deadlifts and squats and stuff. So so you're listening to your body a bit more now. I do that a lot more now than when I was kind of starting off. Like I remember when I was in the academy, like we'd have gym at 7 a.m, and then sure, like you're just mainly just gym then, and you're playing your club rugby when you're in the academy. And then I remember we'd go to the gym at 7, and then I'd go up to UCD before college. I'd go straight back into the gym again, and then do college, and then go to the gym again in UCD after.
Oh my god!
And then go to club training, which is, I suppose, not too smart when you're at the time looking back at it, but like, yes,
you were preparing yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
For what was to come.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so yeah, it's been it's a constant learning, I suppose, like of doing what's right for you, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the pitch, obviously running and fitness is obviously massively part of your game, Lee. In terms of the Bronco, is that something you would still do with Wexford? Maybe pre-season?
We've done it a lot in Davy Fitzgerald's time. We've done a lot of fitness tests in Davy Fitzgerald's time, various different ones, but a Bronco was probably one that, it came into play there for a couple of years. I actually don't think I've done one now in the last 2 years. But it would like I actually enjoyed the Bronco out of all fitness tests. I think I enjoyed that one.
Andrew's
most.
face.
Yeah, it's not that I don't mean I enjoy it. I mean it's probably the one that I prefer to hear that we're doing as opposed to some of the others. But we haven't actually done it in the last few years. Yeah.
Do you remember like personal best?
Yeah, personal best I got in the Bronco was 4:20.
Okay, jeez.
Yeah.
That is really good.
30
Brilliant.
seconds better than me, like half a minute better than me, like.
Yeah, well, again, we're at different games.
Yeah,
you know what
yeah,
I mean? Like we're, like as much as we'll talk about our routines or some of the structure of what way we go at things might sound like we're similar athletes, but in a way we're probably not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like and that's kind of more our game. I suppose GA is just mileage and like running, and I suppose yours is more contact and strength based, and you know. So like 30 seconds to me when you say that, like it doesn't sound like a wide enough gap to me. I need to get better, I think.
Yeah. Is it something you do in rugby a bit? The Bronco.
The Bronco.
Yeah.
We'd be the same. Like we didn't do it in our pre-season for Irish camp because like they just want you on the pitch. Actually, they'll increase the intensity of the pitch sessions, like and use that as fitness because they want you obviously to get the most out of, like they want to get your skills going as well and not just be doing kind of running just for the sake of running. But like they do in Leinster in pre-season, they'll have you in for a few weeks and you'll be doing like a couple of you'll be doing like conditioning sessions the whole way through, and then they'll have the actual testing day, which a lot of lads are dread most of the time.
Pain
The
in the
thing is,
stomach stuff.
it's like it's the backs, and backs don't mind doing it. The backs, because the backs are good at it. It's
Yeah,
made
they're
for-
grand.
It's made for the backs.
Yeah.
'Cause the backs. It's like you're playing different sports, like backs and forwards. Like
Yeah.
it's not made for forwards. Like some back rows and stuff are quite good at it. Like Josh Van der Fleer is. It's like he doesn't slow down in it.
Yeah.
He just keeps going. Like he speeds up as it goes on. Whether I'd be waddling towards the end, I'd falling over the line but he'd be peeled off the pitch after. But yeah, it's crazy the difference between backs and forwards. Like in the Bronco, they're like, oh, can't wait to do it. Like
Yeah.
they're like, just get it over and done with. The forwards are just like, I'm not feeling too well today.
Not coming in.
Yeah.
Wasn't
It's the
it,
worst thing knowing you're going for a fitness
Yeah,
test
yeah.
too. It's just all day
Feel
you
it
have
in
pain
your
in your
stomach?
stomach.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
And then once you get it over and done with, it's like, oh, like there was
That was easy.
like less than 5 minutes.
Because it is only
less than
less
5
all
minutes.
fitness tests try
Yeah.
less than that. It's just
Yeah.
hard work for 5 minutes less than that's it.
Yeah, it's like anything. You build it up.
It's the
You
mental
build,
side.
you build it up. So
Well, you know
much.
the place you're going to go to in your mind and your
Yeah.
and physically where you're going to. And that's the nervy part
Yeah.
of having to go there, like, you know.
Yeah.
Wasn't it Hugo Keenan that has like some
Oh, I think
record?
I'm pretty sure he has the record for
Yeah.
the Bronco, like in rugby anyway.
Yeah, I
But,
think
I'm
so,
not
yeah.
surprised with
Yeah.
that.
Oh,
Let
like
me see him.
But that's the thing. Like, it's like we're playing different sports. You look at the GPS, kind of the numbers and the stats and everything, and he'd be miles ahead of everyone, like because the just the distance he covered, like he'd be a great midfielder, like
Yeah.
It's just like he's just
Go all
got
day.
an engine like no one I've ever seen. Like it's mad the amount of work he puts in, but like that's why he's so good. Like he can cover the pitch.
And that is rugby, like you mentioned a few times, just the variety of different athletes that are on field together. Like,
Like you have you have like 130 kilo front rows, and then you have like Gemmo, who's like 80 kilos. He's probably a bit heavier than that, but like I always call him 80 kilos. But like you have it's all shapes and sizes really. Like
Yeah.
all like completely different types of athletes, like completely different. Like you have like long distance runners mixed with like sumo wrestlers, basically. Like,
strong men, like
yeah.
And in terms of like 1Ks and that, do you ever time yourself how fast you can run a 1K?
Again, it would be fairly common fitness tests that you do, like in correlation with something else like a Bronco, which have twists and turns, where then you might do another like a 1K test or a 1.2. 1K test that I done that I remember was my time was about 3:07. That was my 1K time. And again, like you do them in correlation with each other, because obviously one is different than the other. I think the Bronco equates to about 1.2.
1.26. I have
Is
it.
that exactly okay?
Nightmares about
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So yeah, like you do different ones in various stages of the year, but they seem to be like some of the more common ones. Your Bronco, and it's complemented then with your 1K as well. So yeah, we used to do a fitness test back in Davy's time as well, called the 150 shuttle, and it was the
horrible.
worst fitness test.
What is it?
It's a 150 shuttle where you just have, I think it's
like
six
pyramids,
cones.
like-
Yeah, I think it's 6 cones ahead, and they're all spaced 5 meters apart, and you've 6 sets, so you have 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off to get out and back, and as far as you can go. You try to get out to the last one and back in, and that's 150. And basically, if you get back to the line, you have 150. Now, if you get back to the line, you still have time. You go back to the first cone again, so you just go as hard as you can for 30 seconds. You get 30 seconds off. Like the first set, second set, you get through. Then when it comes to the third set,
The
you're
legs
just
start to
the
go,
legs are going, the
Jelly.
lactic acid, and then you have
The wheezing.
fourth, fifth, and
The
sixth.
wheezing starts like it's
Like it's just iron in your
Yeah.
throat. Like it's just, that's what you can taste. It's just iron. Like it's
Oh,
it's like
God.
I think it's like blood vessels or something.
Oh, it's-
blood is coming through here, and you can taste iron in your neck, in your throat. It's just it's terrible. But it's the worst fitness test, and when we know that that's coming up, God, lads would be coming into training like children. To be just like, you would just kind of cuddled in the corner.
Yeah,
and just
yeah.
you'd be just dreading it.
You
Horrible.
you know
fitness test.
you learn the character of a lot of people from,
Yeah.
from fitness sessions. Like,
But then when lads get to the line, they're just grinding their teeth,
Yeah.
like, and going for it.
They're ready
and
to
Yeah.
go.
They
just tough it out.
like Andrew said, you build it up so much, but then when you're there and you're about to do it, you're just like, I'm ready. Just blow the whistle, I'll go.
You nearly
That's what
prefer
it is.
like when they don't tell you you're doing fitness.
This is what I'm saying. Don't say nothing when they come
Yeah.
in. Just let give me a box in the stomach when I get
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Don't give it to me 24 hours beforehand.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm carrying it all day. But that's like the 150 shuttle test. But that would have been my 1K time too.
And that was Davy Fitz. Was he a good coach?
Absolutely, yeah. Yes, yeah, and it was great to see him obviously winning at the weekend as well. Obviously, look, we've very, very fond memories of our time together. A lot of lads that that are recently retired for Wexford as well. You know, he remained all good relationships with everybody. And look, he'd still constantly be in touch. And it's like he's managing Waterford now, obviously, and you'd always be wishing him the best for games and stuff. And he was an exceptional coach.
What was he like in the dressing room?
Obviously in the dressing room, there's like, for what people would only get to see of Davy on the sideline, there is moment like he brings that passion into the dressing room also, but it's also balanced out with a lot of, how do I say it, like calmness at the same time, and collectiveness, and there's structure to it, and like, he just expresses himself that way, but his information that he throws at you, is all very, very valuable, and it's very, like, it's not just like screamed at or anything, but people might think
Because we see him on the sideline.
yeah,
and how he
absolutely
acts.
not. No, like, he can be very collected as well, but he does bring that passion into the dressing room too, but it's infectious. You want him to be that way in the dressing room, because that's how he gets the most out of you as well. So yeah, like, behind closed doors, there's a lot of different sides to him.
Yeah, it's important to have those influential coaches. Did you have anyone, Andrew, in particular, that you sort of, maybe you have it now at the minute, that you're
Like
really inspires you?
I've been lucky to have like a load of great coaches like growing up, and my time at Leinster and Ireland as well. Like, I remember when Stu Lancaster came into Leinster, I suppose he came in the same season I started. Like, I got made my debut and everything for Leinster, so he kind of, I suppose, made me mature a lot as a player. He was the kind of player or the coach that was looking for people to speak up, and didn't care if you had 200 caps for Leinster, or if it was your first time playing. Like, he'd expect you to kind of come in and like have an opinion about something, and be able to kind of express yourself as well. And he was great for like he was a great man manager as well. He was great for kind of sitting down and having a chat, like and where you need to improve in your game. Like he had no problem with taking you aside and kind of and talking to you just like nearly as a mate as well. Like just kind of he was so good at building that connection with all the players, and I'm still in contact with him now as well. Like he's over in Racing in Paris. So, but yeah, like I've had some great coaches, and I suppose when they are kind of animated, I suppose when you can see their emotion coming through, it shows you that they really care about the team, and it shows you that they're like they care about each individual player. They care about they care about everything, the training and each game as well. But I suppose like if you don't see them, it's nearly if you see them quiet, you're like, or like not themselves, you're like, yeah, that could leak into the team, I suppose. And like sometimes you need a bit of a kick up the arse. Sometimes like if you're sometimes at half time or something. I've been plenty of those dressing rooms where you're where things aren't going your way, and you get a bit of a kick up the arse at half time from the coach. But yeah, like I think especially now, like we've some of the best coaches in the world. We have Jacques in Leinster, who's won 2 World Cups with South Africa, and he's like incredibly passionate about rugby, and it's obviously taken a few weeks for him to put his plan and put his kind of his structure in place in Leinster. It's taken us a few weeks to get used to it, but I suppose it's that it's having a coach with incredible passion for the game that sort of pushes you on, and it motivates you even more, and it makes it even more enjoyable, I suppose.
Was there ever a worry when Jacques came in that he would put this new defensive system in place and that you wouldn't get it in time? Because I did feel that this season it feels so important to win silverware for Leinster, obviously because of the past Champions Cups. Did you ever worry that we're not going to get this system in time?
Well, even he said when he came in, like, this is going to take 14 weeks for us to get in any way used to the system, because it wasn't 100 miles off like from what we had been doing, but it's still a new system that people are getting like used to the new language of, and you're getting used to like a coach's just new way of coaching things. So which is like some players can pick it up quite quick, and some players can take time. But like that's the thing of having a great squad. You have lads who get the game quite easy, can see it really well and can see it differently, who are constantly helping other lads understand it more. And I think Jacques has been incredible with that, and he's been incredibly patient. He knows that not everyone's the same, not everyone learns the same. So some people get the system quite easy, like, and some people might take a bit of time to get used to. But there was, I suppose there is always that kind of that nervousness of kind of do we just stick to what we're doing, or like you're putting your trust in a coach who's just coming in. But that's the thing, you have complete trust in these people, because they're like he hasn't won 2 World Cups for no reason. Like he's an incredible coach, and he's also one of those coaches that is incredible to talk. He's just great to talk to, great to be around. His energy, his passion for the game. So it's you do have those kind of, I suppose, at the start of the season where you're like, right, like we didn't win anything last season. Like,
but we were so close.
We're so close, but like you have complete trust in your managers and the people steering the team. And I think we've got it quite well now. We've got it, I think, sooner than those 14 weeks. So yeah. So it's like I think it's the same as anything. Like no one really, I think people kind of get irked a bit by change and stuff, and
it's the Irish.
Yeah, it must be. It must be. But I suppose trust is a huge thing, and kind of just being adaptable and receptive to criticism, I suppose, as well. Like we have, like one of our kind of our mantras in Leinster is being humble, I suppose, and humble enough to accept criticism from coaches and your teammates as well, because it's nothing personal, I suppose. At the end of the day, it's it's just to help the team get better, and which is huge in a sporting environment.
And when you think of those 2 Champions Cup defeats, it was obviously La Rochelle who inflicted the pain, but you got one over them.
Yeah,
And you got to get your own back. What was that like?
Oh jeez, yeah. It was it was tough 4 years. Like sure, it was 4 years, 3 years. It was semi-final. We got
Semi-final, yeah, and then 2 finals.
Yeah, like it was to have 2 finals, and especially the one last year, in the Aviva at home. Like you can nearly get kind of caught up in the right. It's a home game. Like you nearly have this, and I suppose that's what everyone thought at half time with that game. Like we were up at half time, and then kind of the game got away from us in the end. But yeah, like it was incredibly, like, I suppose, satisfying. Been able to kind of put that one to bed this year, and given we had them in the pool stages and bet them over there in La Rochelle, and then been able to do it in the Aviva again. It was very, incredibly satisfying.
And now you get to play in Croke Park. So Lee Andrew's going to be in Croke Park before you this year.
Yeah. I gave him a hurl on the way in. I brought him up a hurl, so I might come to use some croker for
I might book him out in the captain's run, like in the captain's run, like.
Northampton won't know what's going on.
Yeah, we were laughing on the way up in the car. I came up and one of the lads were saying to me, it was funny last night, he was thinking, who would have thought, like, between Lee and Andrew doing the podcast today, which one of them will play in Croke Park first this year, you know, and sure, big man gets it,
Are you looking forward to that? Obviously growing up playing GA and getting a chance to get in there now to Croke Park.
It's incredible, and the fact that it's sold out in like less than 2 days as well, like over 80,000 tickets sold for it, like is mad. Like I didn't think it would be that much of a, like, sure, you get the Aviva is only 50,000 or 55,000, and then it's a big jump, like 30,000 like extra seats, and that selling out is just kind of adds to the occasion and makes it even more special, I suppose. And so it's given the kind of the significance of Croke Park and the history behind it as well. It makes it incredibly special. And I've been to Croke Park only to watch, and now to be actually be able to play there it's incredible. And I suppose it's a great privilege as well to be able to go out and represent your home province in in a national stadium that is Croke Park. Like it's I'm sure, like the last rugby game that was played there was 2009 when Leinster played Munster, like and like sure you saw the games when I think it was 2007 and stuff when Ireland played England and stuff. I remember watching on those games, seeing like the Bull Hayes crying in the anthems and stuff, like
iconic.
Just seeing that, and like just the amount of history I suppose that goes along with it, and I suppose how much pride people get from playing in Croke Park as well. Like you just can't take it for granted.
I asked Caelan Doris after the La Rochelle game about playing in Croke Park, and he said that he's been in to watch Mayo many times. And he's like, I hope it's going to be different. It's funny when you think it like that. You're like, oh God, yeah. It is. It's nice to see that. Suppose, like, obviously play rugby, but obviously have a massive interest then in other sports as well. There's other things outside of rugby as well. Yeah, which is nice. So for you, Lee, then goal setting, what is that like for you? Do you look ahead each year to I want to win the All Ireland, or is it a case of small goals and step by step?
It would be small goals and step by step. Like look at. Obviously, the dream is to be in Croke Park on an All Ireland final day, and be involved, be in the final. You know, like that is the dream since day one. But like when I suppose you're coming from a background that we haven't won an All Ireland in almost 30 years now, and you're probably coming from I suppose a squad that we have at the minute that we haven't actually appeared in one either. Like, you know, it's not easy to just turn up at the start of the year and set a goal of All Ireland final. It's steps along the way, and it is a long road to get there. So if you can manage to hit some of your goals along the way, who knows what could happen down the line. Look, obviously at the moment, the last number of years, we haven't been anyway threatening to get anywhere near it, I suppose. But like some of our goals would be like, you know, national leagues, like getting into a form, good form in National League to get into the Championship and have a good stab at the Leinster Championship. And like, look at if you're competing in Leinster and you can manage to, like, we won a Leinster 2019 and we felt we could push on and go all the way, and it just didn't happen. Being beaten in the All-Ireland semi-final that year against Tipperary, and you know, quite easily we could have ended up in the All-Ireland final that year. So you can see that there is the pathway there. You just need a bit of luck and some. Look, you obviously need your consistency along the way, and that year is probably the year we had it most. Went, I suppose, won Leinster. So, like, look, you're thinking to yourself, if we can get into the Championship and get into a good consistent form, get into a Leinster final, and if you win that, you're automatically in an All-Ireland semi-final. You know, and you're one step away from it, and you throw the kitchen sink at it, I suppose. So it would be more along the lines of small goals, and if you can manage to get them along the way and hit them targets, then your confidence grows as well, and the belief grows. And yeah, like, look, obviously Leinster is something that we always look towards because it's something that we do believe we can achieve. And you know, you have to believe in something. You have to believe you're going to get some silverware somewhere. Everyone that's playing sport wants it, and you know, we'll do our best to try to get our hands on some.
And would you journal your goals, or do you keep a notebook at all?
No, again, I'm terrible for writing things down. I don't. I know where they are. I know what they are, and I just have them there. And I just focus on, I suppose, the things that I want to improve on, and focus on the things that I know I'm good at, and I go after them, and you train hard and you work hard, and that's it. And that's just the way I program me. Yeah.
Do you journal at all, Andrew?
Not like so much. Like, I probably should more than I do, but like, the only time I really journal is when I'm in bed at night, and you know, I find myself staring at the ceiling and your mind's going 100 mile an hour thinking of everything that's happened during the day, and I try to just write it down on paper, just so it's like you're getting a kind of, I'm getting out of my mind more than anything. And I suppose it helps me sleep at night. It could be, I think about the stupidest things ever when I'm trying to sleep. Like, it's where my mind is like most active, I suppose.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the only time I really do it. Like, you would have, I suppose, kind of team building sessions throughout the year, mainly kind of at the start of the year when you're kind of trying to define your aspirations for the year as a team. We usually have, like, it's usually a bit of crack as well, like, but yeah, a lot of the time we're be similar to Lee, like, we'll have like small goal setting. I think it's the small building blocks that add up to kind of the bigger picture. And I suppose, yeah, it is the small goals. Like, it's been, I suppose, the biggest goal for me is being available, having my body be like, put myself in the best position to be selected every week and give myself the best chance. I suppose that's my biggest goal, from like, is in terms of just being available to play and be able to kind of perform to my best. That's my biggest goal, is to play as many games as I can, and be able to put my hand up for selection week in, week out. So yeah, it's, I suppose, small goal setting is what adds up to the bigger.
And life after sport, is that something that you would think about, Andrew, that, you know, when your rugby career is finished, what you want to go into, whether that's business or punditry or whatever that is?
I suppose, yeah, it's something that's kind of, it's constantly on your mind, because like, obviously your rugby career can end tomorrow in training, is the kind of the brutal reality of it. Like, you could have a career ending injury in training or in a game, which unfortunately kind of puts things, halts things, which, so I suppose trying to prepare myself in the best possible way for life after rugby is what I can control for the time being. Like, I went to college, I did economics. I can't say I could tell you anything about it right now.
You're in the gym.
Yeah. But like myself and a mate of mine are currently trying to look into setting up a gym. So it's so yeah, we'll see how that goes. Like, it's I suppose it's important to have kind of goals outside of your sport, to kind of, so you're not constantly just thinking about rugby. It gives you something else to think about, I suppose, and something else to kind of keep you busy and keep you occupied, like, other than constantly being completely focused on rugby, it's like, I suppose it's good for me to be able to think about other things and not burn myself out completely with rugby. But I suppose, yeah, it's something that I need to put a bit more thought into, I suppose. But it's something that I'm conscious of definitely as a rugby player.
And would Leinster help you prepare for that?
Yeah, like they
after
have
rugby?
like Rugby Players Ireland. They're like the main body in Ireland for players that you have like development managers that help you. You can go to them and be like, okay, I'm interested in this. They'll like this and this, and they'll put you in touch with the best people to talk to, and they'll give you great advice. They're really like guidance counsellors for you to be able to kind of help you organise that side of your life, because some lads are really good at organising the rugby side of their life, but they have no life outside that they can focus on. And I suppose it's such an important part of being a rugby player, because it doesn't last forever. It's not like a normal job where you could be in there for any amount of years. You have a certain lifespan as a rugby player and as an athlete in general. So I suppose you have to be conscious and thinking about things like life after rugby. But RPI give us the best chance of doing that.
That's great. Yeah, I didn't realise that. And for you, Lee, have you thought of life after hurling?
Yeah, like look, it's something that obviously, again, like Andrew said, you have to have something to focus on or something to think about after your playing days, and it is something that I think about on an occasion. You know, like to what that is still. I'm unsure. Like long term, I'm unsure. At the moment, I'm currently employed and working for a company. We build AstroTurf pitches, you know, and at the moment I'm happy doing that because it complements my lifestyle with hurling for Wexford and stuff at the moment, and the boss is very good to me that way, and you need that support from your employer, you know what I mean, when you're trying to be at an inter-county level. So like at the moment, all that is going quite well, and where that lead to, I don't know, you know, but I'm enjoying it at the moment. And you know, anyone that I'm dealing with at the moment are involved in clubs that are looking for Astros to be built, and there's no better time than at the moment because of the weather that we get here in Ireland, pitch it being unplayable. So clubs are kind of going all out in force to try and get some sort of facility in their grounds for Astros. So that's what I'm currently doing at the moment. And but long term, look, down the line, if I was to guess what I'd be going into, would probably be just something of my own. But again, what that'd be, I'm unsure, you know.
I could see you as a pundit.
Yeah, but look, if doors open when you finish your career, you know, I will consider them, you know what I mean, depending on what they might be after I'm finished. But we'll wait till then and see.
Brilliant. Okay, lads, we're going to finish it off with a bit of crack. So we have a little underrated, overrated. So basically, I'm going to throw out a term or a concept, and you're going to tell me if you think it's underrated or overrated. You ready?
I get unbelievably confused at this stuff, right?
Right.
So
I'm following your lead on this.
You speak first. I just go the opposite
underrated,
to you.
overrated. So, okay. First, cardio. Is it underrated or overrated?
Underrated, I suppose.
Underrated, yeah.
So this is not going to be quick
I was
fire.
going to get into like regards what?
Yeah.
Right, we're going to be quick now. Working out with a partner.
Overrated.
Overrated.
Oh, lateral raises.
Underrated.
Deload weeks.
Underrated.
Underrated.
Exercise bands.
Underrated.
Overrated.
Intermittent fasting.
Overrated.
Overrated.
Mullets.
Underrated.
Underrated.
Ice baths.
Overrated.
Overrated now.
Exercise machines.
Overrated.
Underrated.
Free weights.
Underrated.
Kilkenny hurling.
Overrated.
Answer, Lee.
No,
Come on.
Kilkenny hurling. Jesus. Underrated.
I'm trying to be nice to you.
English rugby.
Overrated.
Overrated.
You're honest, Andrew. Avocado toast.
Overrated.
Overrated.
Price of it.
True. Netflix binge watching.
Underrated.
Overrated.
Amazing, lads. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Enjoyed that on the Athlete Unplugged podcast, brought to you by Little Dragon Supplements. We'll see you next time.